Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday at 6 o'clock, even though our board says 5. I guess we haven't figured out how to do the the time on that yet. But anyway, it is 6 o'clock, and it's time for Local Live here on WMSE. Good to be back in the studio. Shout out to Tom for sitting in for us last week. And I am here, as usual, with Erin. My name's Cal. Welcome back to the studio, Erin.
Yeah, good to be back. And tonight we have a very special guest for Local Live. It's been a second since we've had any local metal on the airwaves, so
too long.
I want to give a warm welcome to Lost Tribes of the Moon, featuring John Lidke on guitars, Ben Wright on bass, Jeremy Messner on drums, and Janine Rohde on vocals.
Yes, indeed. I believe the band formed in 2017, and I distinctly remember they played... might even have been their first show. I'm not positive, but it certainly was one of their first shows. They were opening act of a band called Today Is the Day, a band that I really love, at the Cactus Club in September of 2017. And I got there just as they finished their set, and everyone was raving about it, and I was like, oh, geez. So I'm still kicking myself about that one. But last year, they put out their self-titled debut album, and it definitely lived up to all the hype that I had heard about them and more. It's kind of definitely a throwback to a lot of sort of underground styles from the 80s, and you could even stretch back a little farther. But the thing I love about it is they bring all those different elements of the different subgenres of metal into a really fresh kind of stew of styles. So
yeah, they don't just play straight up anything.
No, it's all a mixture, and
it all sounds really good because it was recorded at Howell Street Studios here in Milwaukee.
Exactly, and yeah, just great songwriting is really the key, and they're just all really great players, and so yeah, we're lucky to have them on tonight. We're going to get to some live performance from them in just a moment. First, we need to hear a quick message from the people that make this show possible. We'll be right back.
WMSE's Local Live is supported by Club Garibaldi. Located at 2501 South Superior Street in Bayview. Open 7 days a week, Club Garibaldi serves burgers, hot wings, and more, and features live music weekly. For more information and Club Garibaldi's live music events, visit clubgaribaldi.com.
Thanks to Club G for supporting our program here. And now, without further ado, we're going to send it out to the Bob and Genie Friedman Live Performance Studio. Here is Lost Tribes of the Moon.
That's Night School, Tuesday mornings, right here on the Mighty 91.
All right, we're back in the studio. We've got Lost Tribes of the Moon in here with us. Welcome. So I want to start a little bit regarding your Facebook bio. Curious about We the Tribes Serve Baphomet, which doing a little bit of research on Baphomet, it's kind of a contentious, little bit disputed as to what the source of that entity is, but it gets a lot of mileage in the metal community.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're not the first one to use it. We're not the last one to probably use it.
Right.
It really kind of was, that was kind of a description I put when we first made our Facebook page, and it still holds true, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily tongue-in-cheek, but it's a little bit of a tip of the cap to the name of the band. The name of the band, Lost Tribes of the Moon, comes from a Clive Barker story called Nightbreed, which was a movie. And I guess for those who are fans of Clive Barker in that movie, I guess they just unearthed well over an hour of unseen footage. So I guess there's going to be a super mega deluxe version coming out soon, which is cool because it seems like every time they come out with a newer version, it kind of reintroduces stuff that they maybe edited too much to kind of maybe tell the story better. The reason I really got hooked on the Nightbreed concept was the graphic novel that came out after the movie in the early 90s. There was about a 2-year run of a graphic novel series called Nightbreed that basically just picked up from the movie, and it really was able to take that universe and that concept and really kind of expand upon it. And I thought it was done really well. A lot of famous, today's more well-known writers and inkers and pencilers were in this comic and all went on to kind of do much bigger and better things. But in the story of Nightbreed, it's basically a world of kind of somewhat undead creatures who their god is Baphomet. So taking the name from that series and kind of using that as kind of a way to kind of throw a description, I thought was kind of a fun thing to do. And it's funny that I be very honest, I actually kind of forgot about that little message in our bio. So when you brought it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that, didn't I? But that's kind of where it all kind of ties in and comes together, is that Nightbreed universe. And I thought using that name and using that universe served as a really good vehicle for how the sound and the atmosphere and kind of the lyrical themes would tie into this group. Because when I started this band, it was kind of, I wouldn't say primarily, but I did have some riffs written that were definitely, for lack of a better term, considered doom type of riffs. So I kind of thought well, what kind of storylines or what kind of subject matter would kind of complement this stuff? And I just happened to be reading those comics at that time. So it all kind of came together at a good time for all that. So and it kind of fit pretty well.
Yeah, I would say. And then you have, certain people will kind of get the reference, and that's a little insider.
Because I don't think
into the band for them.
If I'm not mistaken, although now with this new version coming out, I think they said sometime by the end of the year, I don't think any part in the movie they referenced that name, Lost Tribes of the Moon. It actually, the only part I caught in was in the graphic novel, and it was kind of another name for them, the Nightbreed, the Lost Tribes of the Moon. Okay. I was like, ooh, I like that. That's cool.
Cool.
So we mentioned this while we were introducing you guys, but you all, some of you play different styles of music. John, we had you in with your blues band at one point.
Correct. That was the last time I was actually in the local live, yeah.
Yeah. So do you all, is metal your foundational genre of choice, or do you all branch out on your music? So
yeah, I mean, if you listen to our album, we actually have an intro and an outro that kind of showcases a little more of those influences. You hear a lot more of I guess what you would hear maybe on some older 70s prog rock albums perhaps, or something a little more folky and stuff like that. But our introduction kind of showcases that side of us, and I thought that was really cool to kind of start and finish the album like that, as kind of put those as it's kind of the bookends, and then the actual material, which is the stuff that we're playing live tonight. I thought it was a good way to kind of show the light and shade of us, because on those tracks, we kind of almost assumed like not necessarily like a different band, but like different approaches, different instrumentation, stuff like that. On the intro and outro stuff, I do like a lot of acoustic stuff, and like it was a good excuse to whip out a bunch of synthesizers and my theremin and things like that. Jeremiah did tons of like different kinds of percussion and bells and lots of cool stuff. And Janine just kind of offhandedly mentioned while we were putting this stuff together, like, oh, hey, I play violin. We're like, okay, well, we love to hear some. So there's some of that on there too. And, there's some great wails and screams from her as well. So it's definitely different instrumentation to what you hear as like the actual tracks, the stuff that we play live when you see us. So listening to the album will kind of give you more of that kind of appreciation for like all our influences, because I think we're all pretty eclectic music fans. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily because I've listened to the station most of my life, but it definitely didn't hurt because the station is so eclectic. I feel like my musical tastes kind of match a lot of that too. I'm all over the place as far as stuff goes. I think as far as our tenures in bands, I'd say primarily most of us, if not all of us, have spent most of our time playing in some form of metal bands, although not exclusively. I think everyone's done something not metal, but so we have training in and outside of that world or genre of music.
Yeah, okay. Definitely. And Janine, this is your first vocals experience singing in a band?
No, I was actually before this I was in Nadula, and then before that I was actually in a 70s cover band that was just I needed a job, but I'm like, I can do this, and so I did like Heart and Janis Joplin and that kind of stuff. We played 4-hour sets and made money. So
yeah, that's good vocal training.
Just kind of like the opposite of us. We play for like 45 minutes and make very little money.
Yeah, well, I suppose all that experience you kind of build up to have chops for metal singing style wise. If you're singing Heart, especially.
Yeah.
For 4 hours, that'll do it.
Are there any other like heavier bands that incorporate violin that kind of inspired you at all for this project? Or because I couldn't think of any offhand.
My Dying Bride had violin.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay,
the early stuff
sure.
had violin. Yeah.
Yeah. Paradise Lost has a little bit of violin here and there, especially on some of their recent albums. There's a band that last time Sleep was in town that opened up from there called Sub Rosa. They have violin.
Yeah, there you go.
And that person uses it primarily. She uses it primarily throughout their music.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, for our album, Genie used that just for like those intro and outro tracks, much like my keyboard and theremin stuff. But as we kind of progress forward and work with new material, I think we're going to try to perhaps not try to keep it separate and try to incorporate more together into one thing as opposed to like, here's this and then here's that. But it was a good, I think for the material that we had and like, having those 3 songs, it felt like if we gave some supplemental tracks to surround it with, it kind of made it feel more like a full, complete thing. And the 3 songs were written kind of pretty much in the same little like time period, so it felt maybe a little out of place to try and write like another song to justify being like a full-length album or something. It felt much more interesting musically and, just for the vibe of the band to show those other sides of us instrumentally and like influence-wise. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about how that all worked out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get you guys out there to play. I guess you'd call it your own title track of the album and the band.
Yeah.
Is there any way you want to introduce that song to it for us?
This was okay. Actually, the main riff in this song kind of was what I think sparked the whole creation of this band. I've kind of, weaved in and out of, if you've, listened to me on here before, you know that I've kind of weaved in and out of different styles of music. And even within the metal genre itself, I was on here, I think the first time with my old black metal band, which is where I met Jeremiah from. We were in a band called Shroud of Despondency together, and we played on here a couple times. Then I did like a tech metal band called Face of Ruin that was on here, and then I was with the band Ara, which is just really very, unorthodox metal in a good way. But I had done, some form of doom kind of riffing before. I had a band called Toby Wan that kind of touched on that a little bit, but I never had the opportunity to really kind of take the inspirations that I use for this band to use in like my own band. And so that's this was the first song I wrote for this band, and it's a good one too.
All right, well, let's hear it.
All right.
We'll be right back with another live set from Lost Tribes of the Moon. Stick around. All right, back out to the Bob and Genie Friedman live performance studio we go for another set from Lost Tribes of the Moon.
Thank
right, folks. Yes, that is going to wrap things up for us this week. We kind of ran out of time and can't do the This Is Your Song segment this week, so sorry about that, but the important thing is we got a bunch of great music from Lost Tribes of the Moon. Thank you guys so much for playing.
Thanks for having us. We had a blast being on here. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be any part of WMSE events, especially one like this that showcases local artists, because there's so many good ones out there. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for doing your parts as well.
Yeah, can you tell people where to find your record that came out in September, and also any upcoming shows you've got?
Absolutely, and I'll try to do that without any backstories. Let's give you the straight 411. Our album is available. You can go on Bandcamp if you're familiar with that. Bandcamp's a great site for people to check out artists' music, and you can listen to it for free, and then you can either download it digitally or buy a CD, and it will get shipped to you ASAP. Locally, you can go to Rushmore Records. Dan and Bill, great guys, love them, known them forever. They've always supported me, just like this station, and they do carry copies of our album. And any other way, just come, try to check us out live. The next thing that we have coming up is we actually jumped on this show that just came up recently. It's going to be Thursday the 28th, so it's like 2 weeks from now about. And I think we're playing, oh boy, who are we playing with? We're playing with Poison Darts, Mark Adams, son of Bill, and a band called Beaker, which hopefully maybe is like a Muppets, theme thing, I hope, but whatever. Probably not.
That would be sweet.
That's at Cactus Club. And then I think in April, we don't really have anything going on locally. And then in May, we got some stuff coming up. We're playing Puddler's Hall on Saturday, May 11th with a band from Chicago called Rosaries, who have become some new friends of ours, and a local band called Sire. And then we are playing the following weekend at Sabbatic with the band Gravedirt and a band from Minneapolis called Getting Stabbed. And yeah, I mean, hey, we're excited to check that out too. And I think that's about it for the near future. So
cool. Well, thanks a lot for coming in and talking.
Thanks for having us. We've had a blast. And just for the record, the song we picked was "Sign of the Southern Cross" by Black Sabbath. Big surprise, right?
You can all go out and
everyone knows that song.
Turn that up next chance you get.
Yeah.
Well, it's a minute after 7 o'clock here at WMSE. You're listening to 91.7 FM on your radio. We're the Big Sound Downtown, a listener-supported broadcast service of the Milwaukee School of Engineering.
And we want to thank everybody else for tuning in to Local Live on WMSE. Local Live is a production of WMSE Radio, recorded and broadcast live from the Bob and Genie Friedman Live Performance Studios on the downtown campus of the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And Local Live is produced by myself and Cal, and engineered by Billy Cicerelli. All video tonight taken by Moleskin Productions. Hospitality for Local Live artists tonight provided by Cedar Teeth Pizza, who can be found online at cedarteeth.com. Anodyne Coffee, who can be found at anodynecoffee.com. And by Sprucker Brewing Company. More info at spruckerbrewery.com. For upcoming guests and archives of past Local Live performances, visit WMSE.org. Next Tuesday at 6, we have Rocket Cat coming back into the studio. It's been a couple years or 3 years.
Something like that.
They're coming in with some new music.
Hooray.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
It will be fun.
I like cats. So
Cat.
Rocket Cat's got to be pretty explosive.
Even better than a regular cat.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Stay tuned for Midnight Radio. We'll see you next week.